Hello and welcome to another episode of the Final Whistle. What episode are we at, Trevor?
13.
13. Oh, lucky number 13. Here we go. I'm Sam Taylor, sports reporter for the Lewiston Tribune and the Moscow Pullman Daily News. And with me is the Trevor Junt.
What's up, Sam? How you doing today?
Great. How are you doing, Trevor?
Good. Also, sports writer for the Lewiston Tribune and Moscow Pullman Daily News. I don't know. Glad to be here. It's been a good day so far.
Yeah. So we are in the thick of the summer season here at the Tribune. You may think that would make for boring days for us, but I mean, there's still a lot of stuff going on. It's exciting. We've got, of course, American Legion Baseball to talk about, the Clancy Ellis Tournament. Great weekend for the Lewis Clark Cubs. We've got a feature on Ali Farokhmanesh, Pullman's own, now the head coach of Colorado State, and some other news to touch on, including a landmark house settlement that has rocked the college football world. We'll talk about what that means and more in this episode of The Final Whistle, which you can find on YouTube, online at lmtribune.com, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you'll find your podcasts. Listen to us, like and subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. It helps us out a bunch, and we appreciate you. So without further ado, let's get into some Legion baseball. The Cubs had quite the weekend. Trevor, what did the Lewis Clark Cubs get up to this weekend?
I mean, the Cubs are 6-0 now on the season. They've had a pretty good season so far.
LSU Shreveport?
Yeah, 59-0. Not quite there yet. But American Legion Baseball is going on. They've been playing at Harris Field, Church Field, and some in Soden Soden. And the Cubs have just been dominant. They beat Sandpoint today 10-5. They had a few guys that had, I think 10 guys had RBIs. Or no, that's a different game. My bad. They had 3 guys that had over 2 RBIs, and just played well today, and it was enough to win the game. So they're now the Clancy Ellis Tournament champions. Darren Trainer said going into it, he said that they want to honor Clancy Ellis because Clancy Ellis put thousands and thousands of hours into Legion baseball, so they want to honor him by winning the championship, and they did. They did that.
That's fantastic. Also, it's a cool event. Happens at Harris Field, right? And obviously the other venues, but the championship is at Harris Field. So a great opportunity. And for, obviously the Cubs play most of their games on Harris Field. Is that right? Throughout the season?
Yes, they do.
And so it's really fun you can catch a game of Legion baseball at Harris. Most games are at Harris Field for the Lewis Clark Cubs. And there's several other teams, obviously the Twins, the Bucks, up in the Palouse, the Patriots, and on the Blue Devils in Moscow. And so lots of cool baseball action. What I love about Legion baseball is it's kind of like an all-star team of like local athletes. So you've got, the best of Lewiston and Clarkston playing on the same team. And so it's pretty cool from that sense. Lots of familiar faces, familiar names, and look excited. I mean, 6-0 is a great start. No 59-0, but not yet. Maybe they'll get there. I don't know. I just like the team a couple weeks ago, LSU Shreveport. And so, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, there's guys like Katasevi, Kendrick Gimlin.
Yeah.
And then guys like Jackson Casey and Peyton Bonebreak from Lewiston as well. So the Clarkson Lewiston combination of the teams really shows like the all stars of these teams. And there's guys that show out. Jackson Casey, he had 5 RBI the other day and really exploded in a game on a double, I believe. So yeah, putting those teams together is very interesting to watch and fun to watch at Harris Field.
Absolutely. Awesome. And then moving on to our next topic. A couple months ago, I had a chance to talk to Ali Farokhmanesh, a Pullman. So he wasn't born in Pullman, but he lived 15 years of his life from an infant to when he was about 15, 16 in Pullman. And he is quite the story. He is the son of Cindy Frederick, the legendary Washington State volleyball coach who led the Cougar volleyball program to 9 NCAA tournaments, including 2 Elite Eights. So lots of success and just a great story. He grew up at like the prime of WCU athletics. So he got to see, the Mike Price era for football. He got to see, he said he had Ryan Leaf and Jason Gesser, 2 Wazoo quarterbacks at different birthday parties over the years of his. And but he grew up kind of around the volleyball program first and foremost. He got to play, pick up basketball with D1 players. But what I really loved is that he said that the heroes, the athletes that he looked up to the most weren't the football players that came to his birthday parties. They weren't the basketball players he got to pick up with, though he certainly loved and respected them. He looked up to the volleyball players the most, the Sarah Silvernails, the Latoya Harrises, the players that his mother recruited and brought into Pullman and who really surrounded him with love and helped him out. And he kind of had an eye of at coaching and recruiting as like a little kid. Cindy, his mom would say that when he was like a little kid, like 6 or 7 years old, they'd go to recruiting events. He'd go to recruiting events with her, and he'd be able to point out positive and negative characteristics in players, who's fast, who's slow, and his assessments matched his mom's. And so he already had an eye for talent, and that's translated well. And now he's Colorado State's head coach.
He's also a March Madness legend, right?
Yes, a March Madness legend. I mean, do you want just what happened in that? Do you want to talk about that?
Northern Iowa.
Yeah, Northern Iowa against number 1 overall Kansas. We watched that clip like 20 times about 2 minutes ago, and wide open three. It was just fantastic. He in the 2010 March Madness tournament, Northern Iowa's Ali Farokhmanesh's team was facing number 1 Kansas. It was like an uphill battle. They're like the 15 seed or whatever. And they have a 1-point lead, like 40 seconds left. He gets the ball wide open, 35 seconds left on the clock. He lets go the three. The Kevin Harlan call is like,
Farokhmanesh.
3, God. It's just fantastic. And so that's, if he was, 10 years later, if he was playing college ball, he would have had a TikTok edit made of him, several hundred TikTok edits. He's, that sneaky white guard that just comes out of nowhere. It captures your heart. And so, but yeah,
dagger.
That was the dagger, yeah.
So they were up by 1, and that was the dagger to put them up 4 and just complete the win.
Yeah, and they ended up winning by 1. They held on by the skin of their teeth, so they needed every shot, including Ali's essential 3. And so that was super cool. And like the coolest part about that is that the night before, he's sitting in the hotel room with his parents, Cindy, and then his father, who is the assistant coach of Sandy Frederick on the WC volleyball team. So they're sitting in their in Ali's hotel room the night before the game, night before they play number 1 Kansas. And then Cindy gets a call from Sarah Silvernail, her former volleyball player, arguably the best volleyball player in Washington State history, or one of. And Sarah is like, "Hey, is Ali there? Can I talk to him?" And so she's like, "Yeah, Ali's here." And so Ali gets handed the phone from his mom, and Sarah tells him that, "Hey, you saw your parents coach us to not 1 but 2 upsets of the number 1 team in the nation in volleyball at that time, and so you've seen what it takes to make an upset to win. You can do this. You guys can do this. You've got this." And so she just offered that inspiring, uplifting message of encouragement the night before the biggest game of his life. And then, less than 24 hours later, what do you know? And he's got the ball in his hands, wide open, 3 goes in, dagger. And Ali went off. I mean, he went off the week before, and the game against UNLV, he had the game-winning shot in that game. And just throughout his career, he really turned a lot of heads. He forelayed that into a pro basketball career in Europe, and eventually a coaching career that took him from Nebraska to Drake to Colorado State. And then, he gets the gig at Minnesota, opening the doors for Farokhmanesh to be the clear choice to be Colorado State's head coach.
To be in the Pac-12 next year.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other amazing thing is that, Colorado State's joining the Pac-12, and Ali has not been back to Pullman since 2006 when he came back for a joint high school graduation party. And so he was like 18 years old the last time he was back in Pullman, and, about 20 years later, 2026 season, he's going to be back, most likely, when the Rams most likely make, obviously the schedule hasn't been released, but there'll be a conference vote. So if it doesn't happen that year, it'll happen the year after that, where the Rams will be in Pullman. And Cindy, his mom, hasn't been to Pullman since that party as well. So it's been 20 years for her as well. And so, and anticipated homecoming. Ali has 4 kids, and his wife hasn't been to Pullman either. And so it'll be a chance for him to show his family where he grew up. And so that'll be super special. And so keep your eyes peeled, a year from now when the Rams are playing the Cougs.
I think one thing that we should touch on here too, just to move past Farokhmanesh, Ronnie Palmer, the AD of Lewis Clark State, was fired about a week ago or so, a few days ago. We don't know the reason why. We were just told that it was just a personnel decision, and they're moving on. He was only there for about 10 months, so definitely interesting firing there. Just letting him go. What do you think about that situation, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's not business as usual. Who knows? The school did not disclose the rationale behind their decision. That's something that the Tribune's working on figuring out. But some things are just kind of left uncovered. And so this may be one of those things. But no guidance yet from the school on when their next AD will, or if they're searching, or when they'll have a new AD. Obviously, that's kind of an essential position to have, especially I mean, the summer is a pretty chill time, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And so I'm sure they would prefer to have an AD than not. And so that's something to keep your eyes on. If you're a Lewis Clark State fan, you just witnessed a turnover in your baseball program from going from Jake Taylor for 77% win percentage to Jeremiah Robbins, second to Ed Sheff on the all-time wins list. And so baseball program, the transition seems to be in good shape. We'll be catching up with Jeremiah Robbins later this summer as well. Looking forward to that. And but yeah, kind of some troublesome or just curious things happening up the hill at Lewis Clark State. So we'll see what the summer has in store for the Warriors.
Yeah. House settlement.
And so house settlement. Kind of college. Speaking of college sports has kind of changed at the NCAA level. It's changed quite a bit. What's catching your eye about the house settlement, Trevor?
Well, I mean, so the house settlement, it means that the schools can directly pay the players now, correct?
Yeah. So just kind of provide some background on the house settlement is an antitrust lawsuit. It's like 3 cases combined of former NCAA athletes, basically who sued the NCAA and the 5 biggest conferences, which include the Pac-12. Which if you're the Pac-12, that's like your best bet, your best buy-in to being a power conference. Hey, we were sued just like you, Big Ten and SEC. So Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC, and the Pac-12 were sued by Grant House. He's like the name on the case, a former Arizona State swimmer, over basically saying that, college is like, and these conferences, the schools make so much money off of the athlete's name, image, and likeness. They deserve a piece of the pie. And so that is kind of the thinking that led to the current NIL rules that we have, which are kind of a wild, wild west of, and they basically turn into paid to play. But this suit, and combined with some others, was meant to address kind of the NCAA. And basically, to sum it up in one sentence, it ended the amateurism age of the NCAA and opened the doors for schools to directly pay their players.
I mean, to just speak about that candidly, I'm thinking the SEC, maybe the Big Ten, they're going to have a lot more power than they have already, which already feels like they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
But those smaller schools are going to struggle. Schools local, like WSU, are going to struggle. Idaho's going to struggle. It's a very different landscape now. Now that they can pay players directly.
Yeah.
Those schools that have so much money built up from funds and from people donating are just so stacked to get the best players available.
Absolutely. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Schools under this settlement are allowed to spend up to $20.5 million in revenue sharing. So the Alabamas and Michigans of the world will spend that much. And on top of that, NIL is still a thing. So all these collectives that are, handing the best quarterback in the market $3 million will continue to do that, and you'll probably see that go up. Next year maybe the best quarterback in the market will get $4 million, $5 million. Maybe they already have. Who knows? A lot of that's kind of uncovered. But what part of this is that while NIL will continue to be a thing, the 5 conferences that were sued have created the College Sports Commission. They've recruited a former Major League Baseball executive to oversee it. And what the College Sports Commission will do is will review every NIL deal of $600 or more in value and determine whether it's fair, whether the player is getting fairly compensated, whether making sure they're not getting too little, making sure they're not getting too much, and is actually offering the third party some sort of service, whether that's an endorsement, an appearance, anything like that. And so it's the goal of that on paper is to eliminate the pay to play side of the game. I don't know if you'll ever get rid of that. These current rules kind of they're just too loose. And so this is an attempt to do that. And the other aspect of this house settlement, there's several others, but the other aspect that we'll see affect NCAA schools in these power conferences right away are roster caps. Mm-hmm. Instead of scholarship caps, the settlement has, the lawyers kind of argued and got, federal approval for these roster caps. So the football rosters are subject to a roster cap of 105 players. The Washington State football roster currently sits at 114 players. So there will be some decisions that will need to be made. Maybe there's some workarounds. Maybe they switch roles for the team. I don't know. I don't know how it works entirely. That's why we're looking for a lot of clarity. And there's a lot of questions out here. The 5 power conference commissioners got on a press conference that national media attended earlier this week, today, and they didn't really have any answers. And so There's a lot that remains to be determined. What does this NIL, College Sports Commission enforcement, actually look like in practice? Are roster limits actually a thing? Are they hard pressed? Is it 105, no more? Or, are you able to have walk-ons still be a part of it? The fear is, though, that these rules are hard and fast and that the age of the walk-on is effectively over, which is sad because, rosters used to sit at like 114 is a normal size for a college football roster across the country. And if everyone is stripped down to 105, that is quite literally hundreds of players being stripped of opportunity. And that's sad.
I just want to talk about our summer plans too, Sam.
Yeah.
For everything. Obviously, when summer comes, sports kind of died down. We have all that stuff. So we just want to say, absolutely, we'll keep doing the podcast, but we might have a little bit less content with the podcast.
Yeah,
and
we'll also be taking vacations.
Yes.
In and out.
So yeah, exactly. So the podcast will be a little bit smaller if we do it every week. But we might take some breaks in between some of those weeks. So just want to prepare the people that listen that they're might have to wait a few extra weeks to a month to hear more stuff that we talk about. But you can always read stuff at lmtribune.com. You can always read stuff at MoscowPullmanDailyNews.com. So yeah, there's stuff to read all the time. And I just want to say that we might be doing less stuff in the summer just because there's less sports.
Totally, yeah. And so, but we're still hoping to do some stuff. We're still hoping to have some special guests in the future and in the coming months. Who knows? Maybe we'll go full Dude Perfect and go play, do some trick shots down at Airport Park. Who knows? Maybe we'll comment below what you want us to do. Want us to run a marathon? We're not doing that, but comment it anyway. We'll see. We'll see if we do it. Anything. So we're excited to get into the summer, then fall will be here before we know it. So we're going to enjoy this summer. But yeah, thanks. Trevor summed it up pretty well. You can find us, read us at lmtribune.com in the printed paper, also online at lmtribune.com, vnews.com. And we're here all summer long.